Okay, good evening everyone, and thank you all for coming out this evening. I know that you're in for a real treat. As most of you probably know, my name is Marie, and I'm delighted to bring Maximise to you. The goal of these Maximise seminars are to inspire, empower, and educate athletes and people in the sporting arena. So in this first seminar, we'll look at the journey to high performance, and I'm very lucky to be joined on stage by three wonderful people tonight who will share their journey so far and a bit about where they want to go. So they're sports stars in their specific sports who I know will inspire, empower, and educate you. So first up, we will speak to 8-time All-Ireland champion and 2-time elite champion, who's just back from a weekend in Waterford where she secured another title to add to her collection. At the age of 21, this lady is an absolute powerhouse and an inspiration to anyone who knows her, especially in the Castlebar Boxing Club. And I suppose Bethany will share just pretty much what she has done. And she was kind of done with sports, and then she found boxing. And year on year since, she's added a multitude of titles to her belt. So I'm always blown away when I speak to Bethany about her passion and dedication to all her endeavours. And I'm sure she's going to share a little bit about how she fits work, training 2 or 3 times a day, and college and general life into 24 hours. So can you please give a big warm welcome to Bethany Doocey from Castlebar Boxing Club. Our next guest is Loughlin, a Westmeath County GAA star, winners of the Tailteann Cup 2022, who plays club football for the Downs, Westmeath County Champions 2022, and hurling star for Clonkill County Champions 2018, 2019 and 2020. Luke's sporting career started off more so in soccer than GAA, and he regularly travelled to Dublin to attend soccer trainings there. It wasn't until his mid-teens that he allowed his passion for GAA to be unleashed, and in his first game with his county, he managed to score a massive 2-6, and as they say, the GAA story began. Luke has since played for his clubs and county, and also took things stateside, playing for New York. But his journey has been anything but easy, being in and out of county teams until he turned his life around, and that saw Luke developing a great passion for GAA, but even a greater passion for life. So please give a Mayo welcome to Westmeath County star Luke Loughlin. And finally, we have a lady that has a career spanning 28 years in high performance sports. From Carnarvon to Mayo to Australia, this lady has made history wherever she goes. 4-time All-Ireland winning player, 11 All-Stars, 3 National League football titles, 6 All-Ireland Club Championship titles, leading scorer for Sydney Giants with 55 goals, and joint top place in the Australian Football League and GAA, and now part of the Galway Camogie setup. Please give a huge welcome to GAA and AFL's legend, Cora Staunton. So I'm going to start off with an analogy of, I suppose, the journey to high performance and what it might look like to us. So the analogy that I'm going to use today is traveling on a road, okay? And as many of you know or have realized, the road to success is rarely straight. It's rarely straightforward. There's, I suppose, bends, there's turns, there's traffic lights, there's stops, detours, everything along this road. And I suppose we hit those turns, and hitting these obstacles, we can often feel frustrated, overwhelmed, impatient. But we might end up turning around and going back to the beginning of our destination. But by having, I suppose, the mental strength and mindset, patience and awareness to navigate these obstacles that we face, we can proceed and get to where we want to go. And and while we are delighted to end up reaching the destination, it is in the journey and the details that give us our learnings. It helps us to build character to move forward in life. So for example, when I began my business back in 2019, I did an Only Fools and Horses on it, and I thought, by this time next year, I'm going to be a millionaire. Well, that did not happen, and I'm still building up on that. But I know, had I turned around and given up at that time, I wouldn't be here bringing you Maximise, empowering, educating, and inspiring you all along with my special guest this evening. So, the road is never straight. The road has bumps, turns, and detours, but staying on the road until you reach your destination is where the true magic happens. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to move on to our first guest, who is no stranger to exhibiting the strong level of perseverance and patience required to following the path that she has created for herself. So Bethany, you are very welcome, and thank you for being here with us all tonight. So to start off, I suppose, tell us a little bit about yourself. I think I might have left out a few bits in the brief synopsis I gave the audience. So you can share anything that you like with us about yourself.
So I'm Bethany, I'm 21, and I've been boxing about 8.5 years now. I have 10 Irish boxing titles, as Marie said, and I'm a member of the Irish boxing squad. So as well as being a full-time student and trying to work, it's very full-on and hard to balance everything, so yeah.
And definitely, I think that's something that we'll talk about in a little while, just that balancing act that you have got going on there. It's a huge part of being a high performer and still staying on the road and achieving what you want to achieve. So I suppose let's start off by you telling us a little bit about what happened at the weekend.
So on Friday evening, myself and a few other people from the club, we travelled down to the Celtic Box Cup in Dungarvan, which is down in Waterford. It's an international box cup, so there's usually teams from all over there. And I went down there and I got 2 fights. So on Saturday I had a fight and I won it 5-0, which was the semi-final. And then I had to get up, weigh in and box again on Sunday. And I won that fight as well to become the Celtic Box Cup champion. That's my second time now winning that tournament. So yeah, it was a busy weekend. But
I think that deserves a round of applause. So you were telling me before that the beginning looked a little bit shaky. And you had actually given up on sport. And so how did boxing come around?
So I did all the sports obviously when I was young. I have 2 big brothers, so mum and dad forced us into everything. We were doing, I think I tried rugby, hurling, soccer, Gaelic, and none of them was really standing out to me. I suppose I don't know what it was about them, but I was never very good at them, never really wanted to be very good at them either. So then one day we, myself and one of my friends decided we'd give boxing a go for fitness. And from the first day, I loved it. Obviously I didn't love the training and all because it was just so difficult, and it still is as difficult today. But it was definitely a sport that caught my attention, and here I am 9 years later and I've shown what all the work can do. So absolutely. So you went from being somebody that had given up to multiple titles, multiple boxing titles. What was your motivator? Was it the training? Well, I think we've kind of figured it wasn't. Was it the winning? Was it the people? What was it that motivated you? I think I was very lucky in the club I went into. I was so welcome, and I suppose from the first day I started in it, it was a family sort of presence. There's great coaches down there, and I have great teammates as well. So definitely the people kind of kept me going and kept pushing me on. And I suppose maybe the end goal was always what kept me there, because when I started I wasn't very good at that either, but obviously it's something I wanted to do. And seeing people win and seeing how far people were getting within the sport definitely drove me on to want to achieve more and more. So I suppose it was the end goal that kept me motivated to have the discipline to keep going to training and pick up the training from twice a week to twice a day, you know, so it definitely turned over to more serious than I ever thought it would be, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said there about how, you know, you didn't love the training, but what was it, what was the feel, I suppose, in the boxing club that made you want to go back again and again? I know the winning was part of it. What else did you, at the beginning especially?
Maybe I'd say it was the feeling after you'd completed the training sessions and whatnot, because we all know that any sport is hard, and especially when you're doing an individual sport and you have to get in and get punched in the face, like you're not going to be mad to go back and do it again, like, but I actually don't know what it was, maybe I'm a bit insane, like, but I'd say it was just the presence of the club and the people within it, because you start boxing, you kind of think you'd be doing the journey on your own, but it's been far from that. Like, I've been blessed and surrounded with the best people that I could have done my journey with, like, so it's definitely the people that kept me going.
Brilliant, yeah. And I suppose, what has been the biggest obstacle that you've overcome in your career so far, Bethany?
Taking a loss, probably.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm saying how great it is when you have the club around you, but to lose a fight, it's quite hard to bounce back from that, because it's your own fault you lost it, I suppose. But yeah, they're definitely the biggest obstacles. Like, there's a certain fight I lost just after COVID times, and it was a time now where I struggled to get back into the boxing, and I had already achieved 8 Irish titles by that point, but that loss just really got to me, because it was only a 3-2 and I just had COVID and everything, and it was a fight that any other day I should have won it, like, but on that day now I was very unlucky, and I found that loss very hard to take, like, but the people around me just picked me back up and told me to cop on, so I kept going, and I've become elite champion since that, and I've gone into the seniors and taken the seniors by a storm, I suppose. So. Excellent.
How long did it take for you to get back into the swing of things after that loss?
I took a few days off training only, but when I came back to training, I wasn't putting in as much effort as I had been beforehand, and I was kind of just back into the training for the fitness, and like, I wasn't looking forward to the next goal or next fight or whatnot. It was always kind of gone out my mind, so I was just back into it for training and whatnot. But then as soon as the elites were announced and whatnot, I set my sights on that, like, and that was the next goal, and it was something to motivate me to keep going. And that loss was hard to take, but I could win the elites next time, and if I were to win them, it means 10 times more than winning that fight. So it was just always staying focused, I think, and having a goal in mind to keep you going. So yeah, brilliant.
And I suppose I spoke about the road and bends and twists and turns that we meet on the road, like obstacles that we meet on the road. What did you learn from that loss? What did you learn from overcoming that obstacle that you faced then?
Just how important the preparation was for boxing, probably, because like, we all lose, we all have bad days, and especially to lose a fight that I know I could have won. Maybe I was blaming my preparation. I was too confident going in. Like, you can never be too confident. There's always someone better than you. Maybe that's not the best thing to say, but there always is. Like, you can never like drop your guard or anything. Like, so you always have to stay focused, and getting into the ring, if you don't believe you're prepared enough, like, then that's it lost already. Because like, as soon as you have the self-doubt creeping in, then you know you're as well to not get in, because it's the most important thing to have the mental strength for boxing. So
yeah. And how do you prepare for that? What do you do to prepare for, you know, staying focused and having that self-belief going into the ring?
The main thing is, if I've pushed myself hard enough in training, I'll know I'm ready, so I'll be confident getting in. So I think that's kind of what gives me the right mindset for it. Like, because now I have All Irelands now in 5 weeks' time, and I'm trying to fit in between 10 and 12 training sessions a week, just so I know myself that when the time comes, like, there'll be nothing. I know I've done all the work. There's nothing else I could have done. So it's just down to on the day if I could win it or if not. Like, so. Just the preparation is key, and if I know that I've worked hard enough and I know I've really pushed myself to my limits, then it's all I could have done. So
yeah, Yeah, brilliant. And I suppose, what are you most proud of having achieved in your careers to date?
My most recent Irish title is the Elite Championships. I won them in January. I beat a world bronze medalist and a European champion. And now it was a fight I was getting into, and I was like, oh, I'll give it a good go, that sort of way. Like, I'm prepared, I'll give it a good go, but I did believe in myself, but in the same sense, I was like, it's a massive achievement getting in with her, and I managed to win it, and I won it 5-0 as well, so I won it well. So that's definitely my proudest moment, and it's one of the most recent moments as well, which is great because it just shows that it's only up from here, so.
Absolutely. And I suppose, what's next?
Well, I have the All-Irelands in 5 weeks, so to go to them and put in great performances at them, hopefully, to remain on the Irish team. The next step is quite hard to picture at the moment, because the next step will be going to Dublin full-time to train, and it's very hard to give up college and work to go and do that, especially financially and whatnot. So the next step, I'd love to become European champion, or box on the international stage and do as well as I've been doing nationally, because I've had chances before, but I just haven't had the experience to win the competitions that I've been to. So getting the experience now, and the next goal is to win a European competition or international, definitely. Okay,
and I know that you spoke to me before about being sponsored in your sport, because some of you might know, but Bethany had to give up weeks on end of work to go to Dublin to box, and then came back and was in college and didn't have that salary that you would have if you were working. How do you deal with all of that? Do you find that financially there's a lot of pressure on you?
I think there's definitely a big financial strain. For any student, there's a financial strain on it. But throughout my summer holidays, when most students are working to build up their wage, I was up in Dublin for weeks on end, not working, not doing anything. There was 2 weeks straight I was in Dublin where I couldn't work any hours at all. And then obviously that's a huge dip in my pay and whatnot. So it's very hard to keep up on the financial side of things, as well as trying to work and everything. It's hard to balance it all, with money wise especially, but especially when you have to drive to Dublin and you have to pay all those little things as well that you wouldn't even think of. So yeah, it's hard to do that, definitely.
Yeah. So now you're looking for a sponsorship, and
not to drop a hint or anything.
At some stage in the near future. But I suppose we talked a little bit about the fact that you are working, you are going to college, you're training 2 or 3 times a day, and you've got life besides. How do you fit it all into 24 hours?
The sleep doesn't get much. No, there's days now where I'm leaving the house at 7 o'clock in the morning and I'm not home till 10 o'clock at night. That's between going from work first thing in the morning at 7:30, straight into college. On my lunches from college, then I'm down here training in the club, and then back into college, back to work, back to the club, and then back home. So the days are very long. Monday to Friday is definitely harder than the weekends, but when the weekends come, then it's kind of easier to just fully focus on training and sparring and get a bit of recovery in before going again on Monday. So it's manageable, but it takes a lot.
I'm just curious. What do you do? How do you just keep everything in your head? Do you write it down? Or is it just habit now? Is it just?
Yeah, I have to write it down
routine?
Because I won't know where I'm supposed to be from A to B. Between me and my coach, we have it my little schedule written down, and he has to plan the training times around that. So he's great as well. He'll leave work to come in and train me and whatnot. So I'm very lucky in that sense, because it'd be very hard to do it on my own, to train myself all the time. Obviously, you have to do it sometimes, but I've such a great coach that I'm blessed that he'll come in and train with me and push me on that extra bit. So yeah, it's grand.
Brilliant. So you talked a lot about the people, I suppose, that you have around you. Would you say that they're part of the motivating factor for you then?
Yeah, 100%. Trying to make your family proud, I suppose, as well as your friends and the people that have put so much time into you. That's definitely the biggest motivation, because obviously it's great to do it for yourself, but having to do it for the other people who've put work into you, you know, you'll do a lot more when you're trying to do it for other people rather than yourself, I think. So yeah, it's definitely a big motivation to do it for them more than me. So
excellent. And what's your big goal? If you want to share it with us.
The biggest
and
goal,
you can manifest it here tonight.
Yeah, I have to say it out loud or it won't happen. So, the 2028 Olympics is obviously my main goal. It's 5 years away yet. I'm too late for the 2024 now. There's already a girl qualified from Roscommon. She's a great girl as well, like, so she's serious talent. But hopefully in 2028 now I'll be 5 years older, a lot more experience, and I'll be well ready for them by then, like, so. Yeah, it's definitely the main goal, and not just to go to them, but to win them as well, I suppose. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Dream big. Yeah, absolutely. I want you to give a big round of applause to Bethany for. Thank you very much for your time this evening. I don't know about everybody else, but I really enjoyed listening to stories like this, where you see that the road is never, and it just proves that the road is never straight. There is lots of things to contend with on this road to high performance, but it takes that persistence and determination and all of the time management skills, I think, as well, to make it happen. So 2028, let's go. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our next guest. So a man, I suppose, who's no stranger to creating his path in life and making things happen for himself time and again. So Luke, how's it going?
I thought you could have stat padded for me a bit more, maybe, compared to what they had. It was like the list went on. If you fail as maybe your coming to Bunskills could have been put in there or something. Yeah, I know. I'm very happy to be here between the two of these, and to be honest, I want to learn a small bit if I can from tonight, so yeah, I'm doing well. This is very loud, by the way, as well. So.
And you had a nice journey down.
Yeah, I did, 2 hours, as I said to everyone there. I replayed every mistake I made in my life in that 2 hours on the way down. I know, just before Marie goes, I'm Luke, 28. I play football for Westmeath, but probably the most important thing why I'm here is I'm a recovering alcoholic at the same time, and drug addict as well. And that kind of just puts a downer on things, but that's just where you can go to in life with the wrong choices and the wrong people around you. But through making the right choices and surround yourself with the right people, you can get out of it. And I'm from Westmeath. I'll be realistic. I'm never going to win All Ireland, but if
the Charlton Cup is there.
Yes, but if I can add to Westmeath by being the best version of myself, and we can make a ceiling for ourselves, which we are making advances all the time, that's where my goals are, you know. So
yeah, absolutely. And I suppose as I said earlier on, you kind of started off your younger years in soccer. Yeah. So how did the transition happen? Because then you hit the county GAA scene with 2-6.
I was massive when I was young lad. That's why. So I played a lot of soccer underage, and that's what was number one. Like, I missed a few fail of finals and under 14 finals because of soccer games, and like in your local community, like that's just shunned upon, obviously. But that's just what I wanted to do at the time. But I'd always play a bit of Gaelic when the soccer was over, and I don't know, they were always hounding me because I was fast. Like, I was never that good, and an opportunity came to go to a trial game, and after that, that's where the love came for it. When I was young, so when you go into, I'll tell you in a bit, I went into a treatment centre in Coomera to try to sort out the problems that I had, and one of the problems that I realised that I had was that I was suffering from, I needed more attention, so I wasn't getting enough attention that I needed. So when I started playing Gaelic, I was getting it in tenfold, because you know yourself, in a small community, a small parish, everyone's going to the games, everyone's GAA crazy, and to be honest, that's why I loved it so much. And I really struggled for a father figure in my life when I was younger. So when I was going to these GAA games, I had older men that were nearly taking me under the wing all the time, and subconsciously, I was loving it. So that's where my love for GAA actually came. So it's kind of a weird path, but obviously a path that I'm delighted that I took, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose in that time when you were playing soccer, why did you kind of choose that route when everybody else was around you was probably playing the GAA?
So me and my mother have a very special relationship. I've never met my dad. Look, I'm 28. That doesn't bother me anymore, but when you're a child, these things affect everyone in different ways. And I have had a stepfather. I have a stepfather now at the minute that I get on so well with, but at the time it was me and my mum, and something was driving me that it was like, if I could make it in soccer, I could look after me and mum. I could buy her a Jeep. This is when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, and that's what was driving me at that time. So
yeah, that's special, isn't it? Yeah. And so would you say that she's one of your biggest motivators in life?
Oh, definitely. Like, with the stuff that I done in my adult years, my mother suffered the most, but the reason she suffered the most is because she's the closest person to you. And when you're suffering with some sort of, even, you know, if you're going through a rough patch, it's the people close to you that suffer the most. You know, if you're in a down, the person close to you wants to just help you. But I was in a downward spiral, and my mother is facing the brunt of it all the time. She doesn't know where I am. She's worried about her son. So for her to stick by me through all that, I'm trying to pay it forward now that I'm doing everything right in my life now, that when she goes older, it's okay for her. Because I have a younger brother now. He's 18. He's starting college, and he's as good as gold, thank God. But I want to pave the way for him, and I want to be there for him. And I have 2 middle brothers. We can cross them out. They were along for the ride, but Josh is the youngest, and I really want to be the person for him that I didn't have growing up. Now, he has his dad and all, but I didn't have anyone to show me a way forward, to live the right way, to not hang around with these people, to go to school, to do all these things, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're his role model. Yeah, brilliant. And I suppose you said like that you had a couple of turbulent years, like in and out of football teams, and that. Do you mind talking us through that?
So I had this thing where I always knew I was good enough. I had talent there, and to be honest, it kind of in Westmeath there's a serious lack of forwards. So I was always going to get another chance the whole time. So I even from a young age, I would like not come home after a night out. And you know, when young people, they go and they might go on a night out and have a few drinks, I was getting blackout drunk. So warning signs were there from a younger age. So that all, it's like everything, it snowballs. It just gets bigger and bigger and worse to where there's kids here, I don't want to talk too much into it, but you know how that goes. And so it was like not coming home for days at a time, not going to work every Monday. Like, just then as well, been on county teams, getting dropped every few weeks, or been able to stay off the drink for a few months, and then like it's like a big self-destruct button that you just press, and it's like, right, I was good now for a while, I nearly have to reward myself for a drink, so it's time now to just ruin all my good progress. So that's that happened to me there for about 10 years. And like, that's a long time when you think about it, when like we're talking about the journey of high performance, and as I said, like Westmeath is at a certain ceiling, but I'm trying to get to the highest level of that ceiling. So on that journey of high performance, I only made it really when I was 25. So then when you narrow down the years of an inter-county footballer, 35 max, I'd say. Some people maybe a bit further. So that's a short space of time, and a lot of time I'm after wasting. So you're just trying to maximise yourself now, because basically you've seen the light. So that's where I'm at now, is just trying to get the best out of myself. Just Bethany talking about preparation, like just not going to a party, like I obviously don't drink, but not going to a pub, staying out, like getting my sleep, eating right all the time. The ability to say no to people if I feel like they're draining my energy, to a certain extent, obviously. All these things add up, and hopefully, as well, when we play a team sport, you want, like, there's so many other factors. Like, there could be another lad exactly in my position, whereas I need to do everything, and hopefully he's doing everything right as well. So that's where we're at. That's where I'm at, you know. And the drinking thing, just to go back, I went off a bit there. I've nothing against drink, because I had good times as well. But the thing was, more often than not, it was bad times. I ended up hurting someone I loved, the people that cared for me the most, ruining good opportunities. I've been to college 3 times. I couldn't even go in the first day with anxiety because I was so worried if I let people down. I wrote off cars because I didn't have really people to pull me back. And not only did I not have people pull me back, I didn't want it myself. And it was only when I went into that treatment centre, because I actually had nowhere else to turn. It was either get better or get worse. Because, as I told you, Marie, last week, when you're at hell in your own life, you think things can get better, but they can also get a whole lot worse. So that's it, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. And thank you for sharing that. And I suppose you did do this, you made this, you paved this way for yourself, Luke, and you sought help. How was that? Like, how did that happen for you? And I remember you telling me, you know, the preparation that you made when you knew that you were going into Cúnmara. And talk us through that, because you knew, I think, that you wouldn't be in contact with anybody in the outside world. And I remember you telling me that you had a priest who was telling you all the scores of the matches and stuff like that.
So if anyone that knows Cúnmara, it's hard to explain how it's like. It's basically like a church, a 90-day, 24-hour-a-day church with no contact to the outside world. So the day before that I was going in there, so this is kind of where I was at in my life. I was in the army. There was an army patrol, because I was been missing for 2 months, an army patrol out to find me, to bring me back. Not that I did that wrong, but I had been AWOL for 2 months, and I was hiding under my little brother's bed. There was, I think, 4 army jeeps outside the window. He looked out the window, and 3 or 4 Garda cars from Mullingar, and I was hiding under the bed because I was going to this place tomorrow. I'd finally said that I'd go, because that's where I was. I'd nowhere else to turn. So a guard from Mullingar that was actually quite close to me, he came out to my house. He actually told him that I wasn't there, kind of lied for me. And I basically got a few hours before I had to go, because I wasn't going to go get the help at the time I needed it. They would have brought me back and went through procedure. So I remember something flicked me. I was like, I'm going to this place. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to try and get fit. Now at this stage, I had let myself go to literally, I couldn't even run at this stage with just drink and what I'd done to my body. Before I went in, my eyes were yellow. I was starting to get jaundice, and I did a medical in there, and the doctor told me in there I had the liver of a 65-year-old alcoholic because I was drinking spirits at the time. That's all I was drinking. It was over COVID, so there was no like pints or whatever. It was just spirits. But that morning, anyway, I remember flicking through Instagram the time of COVID, and everyone was putting up workouts. So I got a sheet of paper, and I had like an hour or two, and I wrote down all these workouts that I just needed a clock with, like a stopwatch, because I knew I'd have a stopwatch. So there was like 40 workouts, and I'd write the time that, say, this Instagram model was after taking to do the workout. So I had something to compare to. So that was grand anyway, and I brought this sheet with me. Little did I know, I did that probably just to be more proactive than that. So I got in there anyway, and this is just a follow-on of the workout. So the first workout I did, I was in the middle of 2 single beds. The time it took the Instagram model was 18 minutes. It took me 37 minutes or something. And the lad that I was sharing the room with, he came in and I was in a bucket of sweat on the ground. Like, I thought I was having a fit or something, honestly. But it just, along with that, like, I went through a lot mentally more so. But the fitness thing kind of gave me a purpose, because, as I said, I was coming 26 or 20, I was 25. I actually didn't think I was going to get a chance again to play Westmeath, but I was like, if I do get a chance, I'll be ready. And I never really had much sporting goals or aspirations. The only one thing was to win a championship with my club, because it's kind of like, you know, redemption from the people around, because you care more about your own. Like I care about, like, you know, say our club chairman who's seen me grow up that was all I cared about. Like, all the stuff at Westmeath was great, but like last year we ended up winning it, and I thought I'd be happy. It was actually relief. It was like I feel like I was after gaining respect back from people that I had hurt so much, and it was hard to like, I love the Westmeath thing. Like, the Tailteann Cup was great, like the streets and all that. Like, we might never see that again, but that moment was like just total relief, and it was more like a culmination of the hard work I put in, because that sheet that I wrote down, I'm not bigging myself up or anything, but by the end of that Cumira, I was beaten every time, like every time. And there was a farm lane in there as well, like, and it was 300, I got someone to measure it that was 300 metres, so that I timed myself down. So I knew 10 laps was 3K. So I had a little Casio watch, so like I was up and down, up and down. And I just, Marie was just mentioning a priest. There was a priest from Westmeath in there as well. And every week, he'd come in on a Tuesday, and he'd be like, 8 weeks now till you're playing Kinnegad. So like, I was getting out in 8 weeks, or 8 weeks now till blah, blah, and you's won, and you's have this chance. Now, that year we didn't win it. Obviously, well, like, we didn't win it, but that was drive me, like, you know, you need a purpose. And my purpose changed from time to time. At the minute, it's just being healthy. Because at the end of the day, your health's your wealth. We'll have a sport forever. We won't be able to play forever, but we can be involved forever. But as long as you're healthy in your mind and your body is okay, like, you can do anything, like, really. And I'm not talking airy-fairy, you know, I'm going to whatever, like, I'm not going to win the Super Bowl, or I'm not going to win the Premier League, but like, I can have a good life. I can go back to college. I can stuff it, that ceiling again. I can go through my own ceiling. So
Yeah, smash that glass ceiling. So I suppose you kind of knew that it was your time to shine when you were heading in there. You had made up your mind. This was it. When you came out, you started back to football. How was it?
It was great, because I had found out what was wrong with me, to be honest. And I didn't think I was crazy, because, as I said, there's kids here. I had questioned a lot of stuff in my life, like the way I was, the way I looked. All these things bothered me for years. Like, for someone like me, I drank a lot. And when I was drinking, I was like, you know, your man and friends, fun Bobby. Like, that's the way I was, just the crack. But on the flip side of that, I could isolate myself for a week after, just lying in bed, like literally not able to brush my teeth, with just anxiety, and brought on depression, because you just get to such a point of self-loathing that it's not right. But through actual hard work, like, for me, training is grand, because like, it's going to be over in an hour, or it's going to be over in 2 hours. But that internal work, if you put yourself through internal work and you reap the benefits from it, you're free in life, because you don't have to worry about the opinions of others. You don't have to worry about, am I making the right mistakes, because you live the right way. You'll try to do the right stuff. So when I got all that stuff sorted, I was able to put everything behind me and finally focus on an outside goal. At the time, I was still, I'm out of the army now, but I had got 6 months off because I was sick. I had kind of decided I was leaving anyway, and I'd say they were delighted I was gone, to be honest. But when I put my head down that time, so I got out of Cumira, I had a club game the next day, and I was a sub for my club, obviously, and I had never been as nervous. I've still never been as nervous in my life, because I was standing there or whatever, I was in as a sub, and people were just like looking up at me like I was an alien from outer space, like, you know, because you know, when you hear someone's in a treatment centre, you're nearly, you do judge a small bit. Like, we all are Irish, we judge, that's our thing. But when we got knocked out, the S&C coach or SME, who was a good friend of mine, kind of took me under the wing, and he said, I don't know if Jack's going to bring you back in. This was maybe in like September 2 years ago, but he was like, I'll help you get ready. And I think I trained twice a day for about 6 months, and I just got there, and to be honest, I was actually not playing great at the start of the league. That was 2022, because I was putting so much pressure on myself. I was like, I'm after giving up drink, I'm after giving up drugs, I'm after doing all this internal work, and I'm useless. I was better when I was drinking. honestly. And that's the sort of stuff that was going on. But I just kept going. I just kept working on stuff, and finally things just started to work for me. And then around that time of the Tailteann Cup, that was amazing, obviously. But my club then got to a Leinster final, and it was like I was just getting better in myself. Now, I might not have been, but this is the way I felt. I was getting more confident. I was getting better. I felt like I was helping more people. It just went. And then Leinster final was a big, fat flop. So then you're back down to square one. But that's the thing about sport. You learn a whole lot more from losing than you do with winning. Like there now, this year, my club is after, we didn't even make a semi-final or a quarter-final this year. But like I'm back training now twice a day. I told my girlfriend, I was like, this is what has to be done. This is what has to be. I have to do this. And she owns a coffee shop. I was like, I can't be going into that place anymore. And croissants are killing me, honestly. But you learn a lot more from losing. And as a high performer, just something I thought about in the car on the way up. I don't know if I'm a high performer, but what I thought about was growth. So I seen a thing on Instagram there by Henry Shefflin. He said, when you're 23 to 28, your body is just able. And after that, now I feel like I'm at that 28 where like I'm just so sore, I'm getting injections, but like something is driving me on. So I'm trying to grow with what's driving me on, with new systems, with young lads, with someone. And to me, that's what the high performance is just growing, changing from your environment, always evolving. And like as I said, I might be no good, but I will try my best. And at the end of the day, the only thing someone can ask for is your best, because you actually can't give any more than that. You're not able. Like, so you can be happy enough, and that's really it in the high performance part, I think.
And how do you know when you're giving your best? How do people know when they're giving their best? What do you do? Or how do you talk to yourself?
The thing, I think Bethany said it there about doubt. When doubt sets in, you just forget about it, because the only person that has to believe in you is yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to have haters everywhere. You're going to have doubters everywhere. There's going to be, this lad's a better forward than you. This is just in my sport. He's better than him. He's faster. He's stronger. But as long as I believe, there's always a chance. That's the most important thing. And confidence comes from preparation. So like if you leave no stone unturned, you'll know. Because you're so confident, you're so full of confidence. Everything is covered. Every box is ticked. It's like I'm in pre-season now, right? And so I have a checklist at the minute. It's like boxes. Now I fall off the wagon more times, honestly, but I know myself. Just get back on it. Don't let one bad day turn into two. So I have a checklist now. It's daily at the minute till I get stuff sorted, till I get my system sorted. So it's like, just wake up. I'm trying to get up at I go to bed early. I try to get up at between 5 and 5:30, do a small bit of meditation, and then go to the gym for 6, which gives me my evenings to myself. But like this morning, at 7:30, and I was like stuck to the bed. But tomorrow, I owe it to myself now, even with the lack of sleep from being here, to get back to that system. So that's where that comes from. And just the self-talk. I thought this never worked. When you'd see people talking about self-talk, like, I was in a place and all people did was talk to themselves, and they're being labelled as crazy. So it's not good, but it's internal. It's like, you know, when you say it yourself, you make a mistake and you go, oh, Luke, you feckin' idiot. You don't do that, because that all builds up over time. Like, that creeps in, then that turns to doubt. So it's nearly just saying nothing is better than saying that, and just being like, look, it happened, move on. So. Yeah, brilliant. And like, I think as a mindset and performance coach, I suppose come up against athletes who are, you know, that's what's holding them back. That's what's leaving their glass ceilings just here, and they're not allowing themselves to push forward. So when that quietens down almost, when that negative self-talk quietens down, then you feel powerful to break through those glass ceilings, don't you? There's 3 things that are vital, I think. Well, there's five things that are vital in life. 2 or more for life and 3 or more for sport. First thing is acceptance and awareness. So accepting what you've got going on, where you are, awareness of how you get there, whatever. And the 3 things I think, are just discipline, consistency, and patience. Because nothing is going to happen in one day. You got to build up that preparation. Like, so say now I'm in pre-season. I could be useless in January, which is the worst thing. But that preparation, I do as much that when the time comes, I'll be ready. Or I say if I get told now, because I have to get 2 injections in my grinds now soon, if I get told, right, you need to be ready for the mid-little league, say, or right, what do I do to get there? How many boxes do I have to tick? How much consistency do I have to have? And at the end of that, obviously the discipline comes into that. And then at the end, it's total patience to that time, because you keep wishing your life, oh, I wish I had this, I wish I had that. You have to remember that there's someone lying in a hospital bed somewhere wishing they were in the position you are. Like, that's kind of the way I am in life. You know, I've seen people in bad places, and I've been in a place where I nearly prayed for the problems that I had, because I've seen people an awful lot worse than where I was. So you go through, you just go through your systems, and you get there eventually with patience, consistency, and discipline.
Yeah. Billie Jean King, I think, says pressure is a privilege. And isn't that
Maybe.
true? Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose, just what advice would you give to any young guys or girls that are you know, starting out on their journey to high performance, Luke?
Most important, I think, is be yourself. Because I'm can be quite serious at times, but I can be quite silly and stupid and immature at times around the right people. And when I was about, I don't know, my teens, I tried to fit in with the people that I was hanging around with. And I had no identity. I didn't know who I was. So that's number one. If you can be yourself at all times, I know it might be hard when you're younger and you're trying to make friends, but in the long run, it'll pay off, because you'll stop caring. And then I just think I think this is a high performance podcast, I think I listened to recently, it really resonated with me, is optimism, kindness, because why not, and definitely resilience, because you're not going to get anywhere without any hard work, and anything that's worth having needs sacrifice and suffering. And sometimes self-suffering is the most important, because if you're able to put yourself through a tough training session there, I don't know, intervals on a bike, or for me there, it's go to the CrossFit gym beside me and just look like an eagle in front of the professionals that are there. You know, when you come up to harder challenges and tougher games, like, you've got hard work done, like, you know.
So you're ready?
I don't know about that. I'm after putting a lot of pressure on my performance there now. I think
we'll all be watching.
I think I'll be going into management, actually.
And I suppose, what are the biggest lessons that you've learnt in your life so far, Luke? And I suppose that's with everything, yeah, right the way up to where you are now, because you've had a journey. It's had its twists, turns, bumps, and detours and everything else, but you're still here.
Yeah, probably a few little things. I won't go into them too much detail. The first thing is, nothing changes if nothing changes. So, like, you're going to stay stuck if you don't change one thing. And something there that people do, I do it a lot, is say we go to, I'm going to start the gym on Monday. And then in that day, we're like, right, I'm going to drink 3 litres of water, I'm going to stretch before I go to bed, I'm going to eat 200 grams of protein, I'm going to go for a walk with my dog. Like, that is not sustainable. So, one thing at a time, small changes. The other thing is, I think that priest actually said it to me, I think I said it earlier, as bad and all as things are, every choice, you have a choice, it can get better, but it can always get worse. So, rock bottom, I thought in my life, when I hit rock bottom, and I mean I hit rock bottom 30 times, I was like, geez, I'll never do that again. I'll never, ever, no way would I do that again. 2 months later, happened again. And it got worse. And as I got older, it progressively got worse. So I think it's just, that's the lesson there. As bad and all as things can get, they can get better or they can get worse. You make the next choice. I would say that's probably the most important thing I've learned in life.
Absolutely. So you have choices.
Yeah, definitely.
Every choice that you make is yours to make, but you have to take the responsibility as well that goes along with that, with making those choices.
None of those choices are easy. Not just saying this as a thing to me, but when I was in Cumir, they told me. Now I was in a stable family. I had a much higher percentage of getting healthier. To be honest, when I came out for the first 6 months, I was like a baby wrapped in. I wasn't out. I didn't leave the house basically unless playing sport. But 1 in 2 people ends up back in that place. Like that kind of scared me, because I was like, I've tried to give up 100 times, drink 100 times. How is this going to work for me? Or I've tried to give up drugs every time, and I just think that. Fuck, sorry.
Yeah.
I just think that when you make the choice to get better, it's never easy, but make it in your head that it's going to get better. That's a good start, because it's talking yourself positively. It's ingrained it in you. You know, like if you try, just keep trying. You know, to get better, to do things. Like not everyone here suffers with mental health problems, but like we all want to get better at what we do. Like sometimes you want to perform better in work. I definitely want to perform better in work. You want to be better in work. You want to be better in your life. You want to hang around with your kids more. So you have that choice to do all these things. So I think that's...
Yeah, brilliant. And we'll just finish up with this. What's next?
To be honest, obviously football is number one for me. I care about it sometimes. I would be quite a laid back person, and I'd let it not make it look like I care too much, but I love it. I love everything about it. Like tomorrow now I'm going training an under 13 team out in the middle of nowhere. My own club as well. Like I try to help out as much as I can. I probably won't go to the final in Westmeath at the weekend. I was just pure spitefulness. And next then is, so since I made all these changes, I think everything happens for a reason in life, and I'm after getting so many great opportunities. Like people invite me to talk at stuff, and colleges, and like I'm doing S&C part-time like courses. Next year I'm going back to college. I work as a estimator in a company, and I think I'm going to go back to college next year. You know, you get brought to places, people look for advice, but like I don't have all the answers, but I know what worked for me and what can help for me. But I'd say the next thing is staying healthy. Probably on the sporting front, trying to get all of my niggles cleared up. Just trying to be the best version of myself, because that's not just that just when you see there someone says train and nutrition, or you need to get 50 and 50 or whatever. It's 100% of everything, and if you can get as close to 100% at everything you do. So my personal life there, like just my girlfriend says to me, she's like, oh, you're gone all the time, so now I need to make time for her. I need to get everything right. So that's what's next, is getting those smaller percentages and just being happy and healthy. I think they're the most important things, and usually you try to do the right thing and things usually fall into place after that. So that's what's next.
Yeah, absolutely. Luke, thank you so much for your time tonight. And thanks for sharing your story. I hope that you all take as much as I have taken from listening to Luke over the last couple of weeks, and that, and just to know that persistence, patience, they're key to getting to where you want to go. So keep going. Now, we'll have a small, quick interval, maybe 10 minutes, have a cup of tea, coffee, whatever you want over there. There's some biscuits, I think, as well. So we'll be back in 10 minutes with Cora. So we're going to move on to Cora now, and then after we talk with Cora, we're going to we'll open the floor up to questions. So if anybody has any questions that they want to ask any of our guests, feel free to do that afterwards. And so we should be, hopefully, we're running on time now, but we will hopefully have you all out by approximately 9 o'clock. So we'll get started. So I suppose final guest of the night, and as I was just a few years young. Well, I'm just a few years younger than Cora, but I suppose growing up, she was definitely somebody that I looked up to in my footballing career. Didn't take it near as far as Cora, but you know, she was definitely an inspiration for us growing up, and you know, you wanted to try harder because you'd have seen or you'd have heard what Cora scored, and the only time that we didn't want her to score was when she was playing against Kiltane. And that never happened because we always dreaded her coming down and dreaded Carnicon. But no, it's a pleasure to have you here tonight, Cora. So how are things?
I'm good now, thank you.
That's good. And I suppose for anybody that doesn't know you, if you want to just tell us a brief outline.
Yeah, no bother. Yeah, so I suppose I'm from out the road, probably 15 minutes from here. And I suppose my sporting career has probably been a long one, even though everyone tells you they're short and they go by fast, which they do. I suppose my career started really when I was probably 6-7 years of age. Just in national school. I come from a family of 8, so 4 boys and 4 girls. And I'm second youngest, and I'm mixed in between all brothers, so it was, yeah, I suppose when you come from a family of 8, you had to fight your way, fight your corner. So I suppose national school for me was really where I fell in love with sport. So I had a principal that was, you know, very proactive and wanted girls to play sport. And in my time, no girls played. I was the only one. But I suppose he soon realised that I was pretty good at sport. And we used to play everything out there: Gaelic football, soccer, basketball, rounders, handball. Anything that we could throw our hand at, and I was always the first one there wanting to play. I suppose the way I probably followed Gaelic football was, I suppose out my area, there's only a Gaelic football and a soccer club. There wasn't too much other choice for girls like there is now. Thankfully, you know, you can do boxing or it can be rugby. There's numerous things that you can try. But I suppose growing up for me, it was either play soccer or Gaelic, and at the time was to play with the boys. There was no girls team. So my first couple of years playing was playing underage with the boys. I was lucky enough I could match it with them, and they were happy to have me on the team because I was good. So yeah, I'd done that, probably played with the boys for maybe 5 or 6 years. And I suppose that's, you know, people do ask me how you became so good at football. I suppose that's probably where, and the mixture of all the sports I played. You know, obviously males are do everything, you know, because of the way they're built. They're quicker, their skills are a bit faster. So I suppose as a girl, I wasn't as strong as them or as tall as them, but you know, I knew if my skills were as good as them, I was going to get away with it. So yeah, I played with them, and a girls' club came in Carnicon, and yeah, our first thing was community games. Community games was a big thing. Went to Mosney at the time, and you know. We lost the All-Ireland final. I suppose that was the first time we lost by a point. Still remember the day. I suppose that's the first time I realised it was really competitive. Most kids after that game were like, oh, it's Mosney, you can go to a disco or you can go on all the rides that were there. But I was just still angry for a couple of hours about the match and losing it. So that was at 11, you know. So I probably realised then, you know, I was competitive. And in 6th class in Carnicon, you know, your choice to go to secondary school came upon, and all my siblings had went to Ball secondary school, which is not too far from here, and I was like, I'm not going there. The only sport they let girls play is volleyball, and I had no interest in volleyball. So for the whole of 6th class, I annoyed my parents to say, I'm not going there, I want to go to Ballinrobe because they had girls football. And I got my way and went into Ballinrobe, and yeah, won 2 All-Irelands in first year, and I suppose the rest was history. At the end of first year, you know, 13 and a half, you know, I was asked into the Mayo senior team, and yeah, I played with Mayo from 13 and a half to 35.
Wow.
Couple of
I think that's it.
So yeah, I done obviously whatever 23 or 24 seasons with the Mayo senior team, and obviously played underage with Mayo, and in them kind of years as well, dabbled a bit in soccer in the off season and rugby, just you keep yourself fit and stuff. So. And then, you know, after that, I was lucky enough to get asked to go to Australia to play AFL when I was 35, and yeah, done 6 seasons in Sydney and retired from AFL just last year at Christmas time. So playing a little bit of club football now. So I'm on a different path than these. My journey in sport is practically over. But yeah, it's been a good one, I suppose.
Yeah, and a new path. You're paving the way for a new path, I think, for yourself now, aren't you?
Yeah. So I was involved with Galway Camogie, the senior team this year. Not that I know too much about Camogie, but I was working as a performance coach. Probably a title I'm not too sure about, but yeah, basically just helping out in the background. I suppose all field sports, Camogie, AFL, Gaelic football, whatever it might be, the principles of coaching are the same in them all. Well, my role basically was to work with the 33 girls we had on the panel, basically, around getting their performance right and seeing what their lives was off the pitch and on the pitch, and I suppose that when they were training and playing their matches, that they're 100% there. And if life is good off the pitch, as Luke spoke about there, your performances are normally good on the pitch. So I suppose my job with Galway was to figure out that with 33 individuals. It probably took me a while, because I was lucky enough when I went into the role, they probably had respect for me because they knew who I was. But at the same time, you have to build up trust and get to know the individuals. So I'd done that for probably the first couple of weeks, and then you figure out how each individual within the team is wired. I probably figured out that they're not all wired like me. There's probably very few. But that's fine. That's the way it is. Some girls are motivated in different ways, and I'm sure that's the same in men's sports. But yeah, I figured out that some girls need a lot of arm around the shoulder and a lot of encouragement, and help them sort out stuff that's maybe bothering them off field, and just put them in a really good mind space. Where some girls don't need as much encouragement. They've so much talent inside, but they've probably got too much over their time, and they probably need a little bit of the harder shoulder, where you maybe try and get more out of them all the time, and then when they need an arm around the shoulder, you give it to them. So you figure out how each players are motivated. We'd certainly people that were on both ends of the scales, and as I said, for me, with them, I was just making sure everything was good off field, and when they came to training, they gave all their energies, and when it came to match day, that they were fully there in mind. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's the other side of sport that I hadn't seen, the other side of the fence, and probably something a younger me would have loved, but obviously didn't have the opportunity. Them type of people who aren't around, they're around teams now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's go back to the 13-year-old Cora that was playing senior football for Mayo. Tell us a little bit about her. Yeah,
I suppose, growing up, I suppose I probably became very well known very early, and was very uncomfortable with it for a lot of my career. I suppose a bit like Luke, my biggest mistake was my first league match for Mayo was against Laois, and I kicked 2-5, and from there on in, everyone expected you to kick that for the rest of your career. So for a majority of my career, there was pressure on me to perform. Every day I went out, and if I didn't have high digits behind my name after each match, I didn't perform. And maybe I had the best game of my life, and I only scored 1-2, but that's not how everyone else read it. I suppose if you're 13, 14, 15, and that's been put on you all the time, growing up, you're trying to live up to a name all the time. And I suppose for me, then All-Irelands with Mayo came quite young. I won my All-Irelands between kind of the age of 17 to 21, 22. We're in the All-Irelands with Mayo, so there was a lot of pressure. And I suppose when you're growing up that age, you're still trying to find yourself who you are. You're still trying to be a normal teenager, and I probably struggled to be a normal teenager, because all of a sudden you became a bit of a star that you didn't want to be. You were everywhere, and I just didn't know how to deal with it. And I suppose all in that period of my life as well, I lost my mother when I was 16, and she would have been sick since I was in first year in school to when she died when I was in transition year. So that's all happening at home. But as I said, a lot of people don't see the athlete outside of the football pitch, what's happening, in your other life. So, as I spoke about Galway, that's the really important part of your life, because if that's stable, everything else is normally good. So, I enjoyed my time at Mayo, but there was times where, I really struggled, especially after my mom died. For the first couple of months, I fell out of love with sport. I hated it. I was really angry with it. As a kind of 16-year-old, started doing things that you shouldn't, drinking and Just, yeah, stuff that, like, when I look back, it was just my way of coping. I didn't know how to cope. But I was very lucky, like Bethany said, I had really good people, coaches in particular, and teammates, but particular coaches that used to just come to the house every day and say, you're coming. I'm like, I'm not going, I don't want to go, whether it was a training or a match. And eventually they just annoyed me so much, I just used to go in the car and sit and watch training or a match. And eventually, after a couple of months of doing that, I kind of went back and never looked back from there on. When I was from kind of 16 and a half, 17, I never looked back. Sport was everything for me, and it ended up being everything for my family as well, because that was their way. We went on a journey with Mayo for kind of 5 years, and they were everywhere, like your families are. They follow you everywhere, and they're as proud as, more proud than you are. So that was really important for me. So the path that you had with sport at that time was huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And as that young girl, I suppose, that was, that had to live up to these expectations, how did you deal with the pressures that you were under to live up to that expectation, and probably all throughout your career? There was always, a score beside Cora Staunton.
I think as you get older and more mature, you realise what's the most important thing within a team game, and it's not all about you, and it should never be about you. But I suppose growing up and trying to learn how to deal that is all about, one of the guys said, surrounding yourself with the right people. And I was very lucky in that regard. I had very, very good friends that played sport with me on the team, and they're still my friends now. And I had a very tight circle that I trust and, talk to, and they'd tell me, if I was being a dickhead and if I needed to pull in the reins, or, otherwise, they tell, I could genuinely take what they told me was the truth. So I think that was really, really important, that I surrounded myself with the people who trusted. The coaches, again, I had at the time were huge for me. We had a coach from Westmeath, actually, at the time, up Mayo over my period, and Finberrigan was his name. And people ask me now, where did you get your real, I love coaching and I love tactics and all that in the game. Where did you get all that from? And I tried to remember, and looking back, and it was definitely from him. I went to college in Loughlin at the time, so he was bringing us down to training, a couple of times a week, and he was looking after us when we were in college. If you're a poor student and you can't have, put too much food on the table, he'd bring us out to his house and look after us. Me and my best friend were in college there. So I just learned, my love for the game and to really dissect the game came from him. But he was a real, that kind of father figure to me when I needed it. So the people that surrounded me in that time, they kept me grounded, kept me very humble. And as I said, I never wanted to be in the limelight. I remember, I was, on ads on television and stuff at the time, and I was only starting college as well, and I just wanted to fit in. I didn't want to be anyone else. And I remember I had to go to different events and stuff, and I'd be at these events not even sure why. It's fine now when you're at these, but at the time I never knew I was sure I was at them. And these are all big events in Dublin, and different awards things, and I'd be sitting there, and I remember, I'll tell you a story. I remember being at an event in the Burlington, and my best friend tagged along, and sure, we said we'll have a good night, whatever. They put you up, and they look after you, whatever. And we're going around looking for, it was actually a political event, and I had no idea about politics, believe you me. And we were going around looking for the table. It was Fianna Fáil at the time, and I was like, where are we sitting and what are we at? And I couldn't find where we were sitting, because the room must have been full about 2,000 people, and I'm like, can't find it. Next thing they said, no, you're at the top table, you're sitting beside Bertie Ahern and the daughter. And I was there at the table, and I was a big Westlife fan, so I was like, oh my God, is Nicky Byrne going to be here? But he wasn't. But yeah, there you beside Bertie Ahern and his two daughters, and no idea. I think I was 19 at the time. No idea why I'm there. So I used to get really uncomfortable at them events and wondering why I was there. But I suppose as you mature and you learn and you find your way in life. I just never liked the limelight, or did I like the pressure? Not too sure. I just dealt with it. Yeah. And I suppose, for having a career 28 years as a high performer, what motivated you the most to keep it, to continue that for so long? We were having this conversation last week, and I had probably this conversation, few people asked me different things. I think I'm motivated by people's doubt, not my own self-doubt, but when someone would doubt me. And I'll give you an example. So I broke my leg when I was at Australia. After my second season there, I broke it quite badly. I broke it in 4 places. And was probably told at the time, you definitely won't return to sport, and you'll be lucky if you can come back to being able to walk and having a normal life. And I remember, you're the other side of the world, and no family there, or whatever. And I remember asking the ambulance man at the time how bad it was, and they were like, we don't know how bad it is, but like I was obviously, all the drugs I'd been on to kill the pain, and went in, and I remember that happened on a Saturday, that Saturday night, meeting the surgeon. He was like, we'll deal with that when we have surgery, but he told me it was quite bad, and got out of hospital I think the Tuesday or Wednesday, and went into the club to see in Sydney to get my stitches looked at by one of the doctors. And I remember standing in there, this is probably 5-6 days after the surgery, and in a lot of pain. And I remember a guy, and he was big over there in the men's space, he was probably head of the organisation, walking by and making a comment, oh, you'll never return again, as in you'll never play again. And that was the only small thing I needed. 2 weeks, after I see the surgeon, get the stitches out, and I'm lucky I'm not in a cast, because to heal recovery quicker. And he said you start returning to cycling and stationary bike, 30 seconds is the first day. But I remember every day for the next 7 months being in that gym, and you can look into this guy's office when you're in the gym, and every time he used to come out and talk to me, and I just would look at him. And I remember thinking he was my motivation. And what he said wasn't even that bad. He was actually being very realistic. You might come back and play. But all I needed was him. Yeah. And, the guys over there laughed. The first time I ever ran, after, I used to run on the Ultra G first, but when I actually got to go out and run on the track, do a lap, and the lap was the slowest lap I was allowed to do, he was the guy that ran with me on the lap. And there was girls in the team that knew I had this problem. But he was what motivated me, was the doubt of people. And I suppose I'm always like that. It's, people doubt you, or, if a media writes something about you, or if a coach or the opposition team. And I don't know if it's the right way to be motivated, but I'm motivated by people doubting me. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great story. And the fact that he ran your first lap with you. In that, when you have read stuff, because you've been in the media for so long, since probably you were 13, how have you dealt with the media side of things? And there's always the good and the bad. How have you dealt with that? Yeah, well, I suppose I always know, when you come off the pitch, you always know how good or bad you played. Yeah. So I don't need someone that's in the media to tell me if I played good or bad. So I deal with myself. I come off, and again, it's the people very close to me. If I'm thinking I only had an average performance, you'll speak to your manager or coach, what do you think? And your very close teammates, when I'm talking, there's 2 or 3 that you didn't talk to about everything. So that's where you'd look. In sports, as Luke said, you'll have way more lows than you will highs. Whatever sport you are, unless you're, I can't even think. We're talking about Katie Taylor, maybe her. But unless you're in a majority team sports, you lose more than you'll ever win. So you deal with that. But I suppose it's to be able to come off a pitch and know yourself. I'd be able to come off and say, yeah, I'd be able to give myself 7 out of 10 today. And you'll be your harshest critic when you're doing that. But it's to go out, you perform, and if you don't perform, you go and you look at what you done that week that you didn't perform, and you're trying to make it better. But I think Bethany said it for me. Once I've trained at a high level in the lead up to any match, I know I'm fine and I know I'm going to perform. I was very lucky throughout my career, even though I've had a lot of breaks and injuries. There have been breaks, which is great, because breaks, majority of the time, bar your broken leg, everything else you can train with. So I was lucky enough, I did never, if we trained 100 times in a year at Mayo, I'd be there 99, I barely missed a session. So I always felt prepared and ready. And I'm the type that are probably a little bit of a freak, that I'd be out training extra all the time. If I had a bad performance or a bad training session and we're meant to be recovering the next day, I'd be out practicing, whether it's freeze or if I felt it was fitness or whatever, I'd be out doing that. And when I went to Australia, that was the biggest thing they couldn't understand. They're like, but you need to recover, you need time off. No, I need to learn the game and I need to get better. When I went over there, I was at the bottom. I need to get to the top very quick, and the only way you're going to get to the top is by putting in the hours. So, that's that's for me is, you know, it's the training element of it. Yeah, it's probably moved on a little bit. I'm old school in terms of recovery and that, and I'm not telling anyone that's here that's in high performance not to do the recovery. But I suppose I always knew my own body and what my own body was able for and what's capable of. And when I was tired, it took my time. But when I knew I needed to get somewhere quickly, I knew the only way was by training and getting there as quick as I could.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose, what was the biggest obstacle then for you throughout your career, Cora?
There's probably been a few, like off field, as I said, you know, that time when I lost my mother, I lost a very good club mate of mine probably 5 years after I lost my mom. She was killed in an accident. We were actually playing in Castlebar at the time, McHale Park, and she was coming to watch. So, you know, that off field stuff can be, as I said, you know, and Luke's journey definitely tells that can be a lot harder. And the people that's watching in, you know, whether it's watching Westmeath and criticising Luke because he hasn't had a good performance, or watching me and criticising me because I haven't had a good performance, they don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And I think that's really important, that every footballer or any sports person that goes out in the morning, whatever it might be, you know, they're training as hard as they can to be the best they can. But, you know, life isn't always smooth. So I think that's really important. I suppose on field, you know, injuries is probably the biggest one for me. As I said, you know, I have breaking my leg in Australia was certainly the worst injury I had. You know, I'd done my ACL. So there are times where you have self-doubt and you're thinking to yourself, you know, can I get back? Will I be as good? Will I be as quick as I am? You know, will I be able to move as smoothly as I have? Will I still have it? So you do have doubt. You try and not let that self-doubt take you over for too long. You know, you just put in the work, you trust the people who are there. But, you know, there's bumps, you know. I think it was probably 8-10 weeks in when I broke my leg, and I always remember there's a treadmill over there, it's called an Alter G, and you go in it and you go at about, I ran at 20% of my body weight. You know, it's your way of training you how to go back running without, you know, putting too much pressure on your body. And I remember being in that for 2 minutes, and I came out of that, and the girls were training at that time, and they were going from the gym to the training pitch, and I had to just sit on the bike waiting for them to go because the pain that I had in my leg at that time, and I didn't know what was wrong, but I couldn't tell them. And I remember trying to walk from the gym to the car that night, and this was 10 weeks after breaking my leg. The burning sensation in my leg, it took me probably about 20 minutes, which would take you a 2-minute walk. I remember going back to my apartment in Sydney, and for the whole weekend going, what have I done here? Trying to get my physios away at the time, but I didn't want to tell them because I didn't want them to worry too much. But I thought, okay, I have a big rod in my leg. I thought, okay, I've damaged the rod by running too early. But it was actually, I had nerve damage. And I'm thinking to myself, I was in a really bad place mentally. I had to go back on crutches. You know, I couldn't leave the apartment. The only way I could get to anywhere was try to get to my car to drive because of the pain. So you have these like mental challenges with yourself all the time. You're like, it's like physically your body can do anything, but at times your mind is like, oh, I'm not sure if I can do it. So it's trying to push through that all the time. And believe me, your mind can do anything. Your body can do anything once your mind tells it. So, you know, I'm certainly of the mindset, give me more, because no matter how hard it is or what pain you're in, you can always go more. So I think injuries are a big thing. There's doubt when you go out, but I think if you put in the work in rehab when you're there for 7, 8, 9 months, whatever it has to be, if you put it in, your body is so powerful, and once your mind is strong, and I suppose you build up resilience over the time, whether it's, as I said, if it's off-field stuff that's happened here, or if it's on-field stuff, you become mentally strong and resilient. And I suppose over my career, I've just become so resilient to it all. Like, and you can feel that you're being knocked down, but you know you're knocked down, you're always going to stand up again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even earlier when you said about the person that said, "Oh, you'll never play football again," sometimes that can go either way for people. And sometimes people can listen to this and really allow that to play out in their head. But having the mental strength to push through that and break that glass ceiling and say, no, he's wrong. I'm going to use him as a motivator and, push through that. How did you get that?
It's a good question. I'm not too sure. I do think it's probably from life in general. As I said, I come from a family of 8 brothers, and life wasn't, not that we were deprived of anything, but we were my dad was a farmer, my mother was a housewife. We didn't have much growing up, so you had to fight for everything.
Yeah.
So definitely had that kind of fighter kind of personality growing up. And then I suppose just had that right throughout my career. And then, you know, as I said, things that happened, you know, when my mom was sick, I seen her battle for 3 years trying to fight cancer. Every day you come home from school, you see it. So you kind of see, you know, sport is only minor things, injuries are only minor things, you know, as Luke said very well, you know, there's a lot harder things that are happening in life. So you see them challenges and you see things that happen, and, you know, your resilience certainly builds up the older you get. You're not going to be very resilient as a 12, 13, 14-year-old, but the more things that happen in your life, the more resilient you come, and you think, you know, it's only another obstacle in a way, it's only another bump. It's on the road, and you'll hit that bump and you might be down for a few days, but you'll always can get back up again. So again, I go back to the people thing. You'll always have good people beside you that'll push you along. It could be a friend, it could be a parent, it could be a coach, it might be a teammate, but there'll be always someone there that'll help you get back up again. As I said, you'll have many bumps in the road, many of them, you know, and some people will have a lot more in life than others will, but you know, when the bumps hit you, they'll hit you hard. But you always have to get up the next day, no matter what happens in life. The next day will always come and you have to rise again. So yeah, I just think it's probably over a period of time. And you know, as I said, I've been, you know, probably praised and criticised since I was 12 or 13. You develop a thick skin and you get kind of very used to it. And even now, I look at my niece and nephews and they think I'm very tough on them. But I was like, you know, you're fine, get up, it's okay. And it's, again, not everyone needs a little bit of, you know, mollycoddling or love now and again, but you also need young people for their resilience to be built. And you know, I think that's probably in society now not as prevalent as it was, because and that's to do with a multitude of things, social media and everything else. But I think over time you'll build it up, because as I said, you know, it's a bump in the road. No journey is ever smooth, or it's not linear. It's certainly every way. And I suppose if you look at all the top sports people throughout the world, you know, the best ones in the world, you know, life, it was never that they got it too easy. It's always been hard. So and that's any aspiring sports stars here. It'll never be easy, but getting to the top and getting to the heights is always worth it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I suppose I'm just conscious of time, and so you're currently retired from pro football, county football. And the other week I heard you scored about 6 points or something for club. So I'm not being presumptuous, but I don't think that you're hanging up the boots anytime soon, are you?
I'd love to. I would love to. I was saying to Andy earlier on, no, I probably owe a bit to the club now just to try and help them. You know, our club was very successful there for a long period of time.
I know.
You know, the guts to 20 plus years. So we're probably on the other side of it now. So it's just to try and really keep them going. You know, I'm not training at a high level as I was, you know, this time last year, but you know, I'm still keeping myself ticking over, and I think it's really important that you know, I give back, you know, to other people now, whether it's Galway Camogie or to my club. You know, I've been lucky enough to have a very long career. You know, I get excited by seeing other people do well now, and you know, seeing young people, you know, whether it's out in Carnacon or it's Galway Camogie, seeing them develop both as people and athletes. So yeah, that's the next stage. You know, as I said, I'm enjoying it from the other side of the fence. You know, I'm enjoying the media work. I don't miss having to put my body probably through what I had to put it through for the last 25, 26, 27 years. I certainly don't miss the dark nights where I have to go and do an hour long of a running session. So yeah, but you know, my time, you know, I've probably, my body is probably slowing down a bit, that it probably needs that. But yeah, so the next step is certainly helping others, whether that's coaching, performance coaching, whatever it is. But yeah, I'll tip away playing with the club for as long as the body allows me. Brilliant.
And when you just said there, you're giving back like to different clubs and Galway Camogie and all that, but you go around to schools and everything and do talks with kids. And I read in one article that you said something about dream big. Have belief in yourself, and hard work can achieve anything.
Yeah, well, I do a lot of different things, whether it's in club or schools, and I suppose that's the biggest thing I say to kids when you're growing up. You know, when I was probably 19 years of age. I thought I was going to play for Manchester United and I was going to be Roy Keane. Obviously couldn't be.
Thank God you
couldn't be Roy
GAA.
Keane, but I couldn't play for Manchester United at the time. There was no such thing as professional women's soccer. Thankfully that time has changed for women's sport, but I always thought I was going to, play at a high level and play professional sport. I was lucky I got the opportunity, but dream big. It's huge, and hard work. You can have all the talent in the world, and I was blessed with talent when I was young. But the reason I got to where I was because I worked hard, and I know every day I went out, I was working harder than anyone else. So once you put in the hard work and the dedication, as I said, there'll be bumps in the road. There'll be things that'll knock you back, but if you keep working hard, the rewards normally come.
Absolutely, well said. So I suppose, thank you very much, Cora, for your time and for just talking us through your journey and the tips I think that you've given there as well, and just the lessons that you've learned throughout your sporting career. I think they're so valuable for others to hear, because you've been there, done that, and you're passing on what you have experienced as well, and that's invaluable. So thank you very much, Cora. Okay, so we'll just open the floor. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask questions. I think Damien is going to has a mic there. Yeah, thank you. So does anybody have any questions for myself or the three guests? Or have we covered everything? Maybe we've covered everything, have we? Yeah.
My name is Walid. I just asked Cora for, she did she played here in Ireland and in Australia. I want to ask about what's the difference? I don't know, the football here is still even so popular, but still amateur here. And I presume in Australia it's probably professional there. Yeah.
Yeah, the AFL is professional, so the biggest difference is you're getting paid. But no, I suppose I never went to Australia. It wasn't anything to do with money. It was the opportunity to be a professional and see what you could get out of your body when you're training full time and you don't have to work. Obviously, all Gaelic footballers here have whatever job, 9-to-5 job, Monday to Friday. A lot of the GAA players try to have teaching jobs or whatever but that's not everyone. But I suppose when I went to Australia, it was that every day I was training. I didn't have to work. I had everything on hand and foot, so everything was like this one big facility here. You just could go in any time of the day or night, use the gym, use the facilities, but also you had every resource on hand. So whether you needed a physio, you needed a sports psychologist, you needed a doctor, you needed an S&C coach, you needed a kicking coach, you needed a development coach, whatever you needed was there. You didn't have to go looking for anything. I suppose when I was here in Ireland, I worked a kind of 8-to-5 job. So on a Monday morning, I could be in the gym at 6:30, go to work for 8, get home from work at maybe 5:30, and then I could have a training session, and training could be here in Castlebar, it could be 45 minutes away, and there was times on a Wednesday evening with Mayo, we would be training at Loughlin, which is 2 hours away, so you mightn't be home till 12 o'clock at night, so your day might start at 7:30 in the morning and 12 o'clock at night. So just the whole recovery and being able to maximise yourself. You try to do everything right, but you just couldn't, because something had to give, whether it was sleep, whether it was your diet. Where over there, it was train, recover. So that was probably the biggest difference. Everything is there for you. As I say to any of the Irish girls that have gone over now, and there's a lot of them, you're never going to fail, because the only reason you'll fail is because of yourself, because everything is given to you over there to make yourself better. When I went over there at 35, I was certainly fitter, stronger, faster, which shouldn't be happening at my age, than I was when I was 25. And that's down to the resources and the facilities that were there.
Yeah, brilliant.
Just a question for the load of training. There's a big difference, or what you find?
Training, there'd be
a charge of training.
No, fitness-wise, no. The biggest thing I found when I went over was S&C, so gym. So we used to do gym 4 times a week, where we wouldn't have done that when I was here at Mayo. So you get stronger. they have a tendency, because the game is more physical. It's it's a mixture. Anyone that doesn't know kind of between Gaelic football and rugby, so there's that physical element in it. But the whole recovery and everything over there, again, it's monitored. Your load is monitored throughout the week, how much you're doing. Each session you can know when you come in off the training track, okay, I've done 11k tonight, have a smash load of whatever, so how many times you've been hit, I've done how many sprints, it's the resources, they have the money to do all that, so you can come in straight away and know what you've hit that night. So during every week you'd know what your target was, what you've hit. So they might rest you based on whatever. So it's financial, because they have so much money. Money gives you all the resources.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Walid. Anybody else? Yeah. Siobhan?
Thanks, great talks. Just for everyone, there's still loads of girls dropping out of sports, and I was wondering, do you have any ideas, or what do you think is going to keep them in it? Not just for the fitness, but everything else, building resilience, the community and all that. What do you think needs to be done to keep them in it?
It's a very good question. I wish I had the right answer. For me, I think it's really important. I think it's probably the age group of probably 13 to 16-ish, maybe a little bit older. I think it's really important, no matter what the sport. Again, I only can talk from my experience in my sport, so I don't know enough in the other sports. We have to realise in any sport, there's recreational people. The people just come to sport because they want it as a social thing, and that's fine. And then there's competitive people that come and want to get better and play. But it's to make sure that the clubs or the sports accommodate both the people that want to just play it for social, and people who want to come and play for competitive. We have to remember there'll be only a certain, and it's a very small percentage of people that will make it at an elite level of sport. That's just the way it is. But we have to be really mindful of everyone else that wants to be involved in sport, whether it's for that community feel, that social feel, whatever it might be. So I think it's for clubs and sports to identify all these different people and offer a range. The reason that I can talk about Gaelic football, the girls are dropping out of Gaelic football at 14, 15 and 16, is because at times it's too competitive. They're sitting on the sideline, they're not good enough to get games. So it's up to clubs to offer, to make sure whether there's another way of getting them girls involved and making sure there's games for them, whether it's a second team. Sometimes it can't be a second team because there's not enough numbers. But to me, it's really important up to a certain age group within football and Gaelic football and soccer in particular, that girls are getting match time up to an age. To me, it should be up to the age of 14, and after that, then I know you have to have your competitive nature of it. But I see it in clubs, especially clubs that have bigger numbers and they want to win. They're leaving. There's 30 girls there, and there might be only 16 or 17 that play. So 13 haven't played. They haven't even trained then. So it's in some way make sure that you're offering it for everyone, whether it's a recreational and a competitive team. I don't have the answers to it all, but I think it's really important, because I tell a story. I was doing a presentation there in Ballinrobe a couple of months back, and presenting to a junior girls team. Ballinrobe set up a junior girls team. They hadn't had a team in the town, which is a shame for a long time. Anyway, the girl that won junior footballer of the year, she's 2 years older than myself. She played with me in my club. She's now married in Ballinrobe. When I was playing as a 12, 13, 14-year-old, she dropped out as a 14-year-old. She's probably her and her cousin were probably the two best footballers I've ever played with. But she just dropped out. And I remember talking to her on that night, and she came back to sport in her late 30s. She's like, I never know what I dropped out like. I'm so sorry I ever dropped out. But there was nothing there to keep her or to try and get her back into sport. So they're the type we cannot be affording to lose. So I think it's to come up with a system, and I think it's probably ladies football, it's the GAA, it's soccer, it's all these organisations to come up with maybe some sort of competitive league and maybe more of a recreational league that you keep these girls involved, because it's a shame. And it's not just a shame from the fitness side of it that they're lacking in that, but it's the social side. The reason you want players playing in sport, I'd reiterate, there's only going to be a small percent that'll play for Mayo or Westmeath or will box. There's only a small percent. The other 95% we need them playing, and it's for the social side of it. The skills that you learn playing sport. You won't learn in school, you won't learn on the street, you won't learn anywhere else. You'll only learn playing sport. So I think it's really important. I've waffled on a bit there, but that's the way I feel.
Brilliant. Okay. Bethany, do you want to add anything to that? Okay. Thank you, Siobhan. Anybody else? Yeah, Pierce. I think there's a mic coming for you there, Pierce.
For you, Luke, there, I know you hit on it about, like, you said when you go back to Westmeath, you kind of want to push the boundaries of, like, where you can get to as an athlete, like, you know, and push the level up. From when you're trying to, like, push yourself to be the best you can be, when the level around you isn't, like, let's say, at the most optimal, how do you stay motivated to push yourself to kind of, like, to be the best you can be?
Just on that there, it's like the difference from, so say, I'll tell you just a quick story on how that. So last year, my club brought in a fella, Lar Wall is his name. He brought us to a level never my club had ever been before, and we 35, 40 lads at that level. And the day he told me, he knew we were going to win the championship. So this is 2022. It was the middle of the league at Westmeath. We'd 5 lads on the panel, and all clubs had all the clubs were allowed. So I think we played Longford on the Saturday. We had a game on the Sunday for the club against a team that just happened to get into Division 1. I think they were lost every game by 40 points, and the 5 Downs lads off the panel were the only 5 lads that showed up to play for the club. And that team, Milltown is their name, they had a lad on the panel, he never showed up. So we were all just, like, I actually got goosebumps there saying that, because I remember it. Like, because I was the oldest, I begged the manager to put me on that day, just to play because I had shown up, compared to, say, this year. Like, we'd 5 lads in America, we'd 2 county hurlers, lads injured, another lad gone to Australia, another like you can't stop lads from living your life. But the difference with a buy-in from everyone, then, like, you can just see it there. Like, that's obviously the ceiling. We got to a Leinster final, we ended up getting hammered by Kilmacud, but they won the All-Ireland. So, like, on a different day, you see where you can get to. But on an individual side, for me, so, like, I'm getting a small bit older, there's only a few more percentages I can get where I can, like, I'm not going to get better. Like, my thing is, I'm good at taking 45s. So your man Heston, he's a free taker for Westmeath, probably one of the best in Ireland. But my thing is, I'm a good 45 taker. So, like, I need them to be on. I might only get 1 or 2 of them a game, but there's something that I need to have nailed on the whole time. And just on the other people, you need to stay focused on yourself, because my thing is, the thing that I'm bad at is I blow up when that sort of stuff happens. Like, I'm a very level-headed person when it comes to sport, I can fly off the handle, like, literally. Like, but my thing is, I say sorry straight away after, like, I calm down straight away. But by me blowing up with a lad that's probably not putting in as much effort as me beside me, instead of going over to him and maybe giving him an arm around the shoulder, he's definitely not going to try harder. But when you get to inter-county, you'll be found out straight away if you're not up to the level, to be honest. With us there, we've Jason Sherlock there this year. I think he's staying with us next year. And at the start, he was kind of, you know, when you're a new team, you're not really sure. By the end, he was calling people out. Because there's a lad there that's not after making the 36 panel, that's probably the 37, 38 player that's going, sure, I'm better than that lad. I'm better than him. So everyone needs to be on the same wavelength in a county team. The people, sometimes talent will get you there, but without the perseverance and hard work, you're not going to get kept there. On a competitive county team, everyone has the same aspirations, and if they don't, they'll get found out straight away, I think. So.
Yeah, is that okay? Pierce? Yeah, brilliant. And anybody else? Yeah, Alton. Just over there.
How are you doing? You're obviously very driven individuals, but I'm just wondering how you deal with the pressures compared to the enjoyment level. Say now, even at club level now, I might be playing in front of a man and a dog, but you set such high standards for yourself, and going into a game, I go quiet, pressure gets to me, it's just too much. But I'd love to go into a game buzzing for the game, or wanting the game, trying to enjoy it. So the question is just, how do you enjoy it? Like, you obviously enjoy winning and that, but say now, would you really, really look forward to the game, or how would you deal with the pressure of it?
I wouldn't say I enjoy it, no. You enjoy when it's over, or you might enjoy the moments, if you kicked a good point or a good goal. But at times, the pressure is always going to be there and you want to perform. The pressure is probably a little less if as I said earlier on, if you've trained hard and you're in good shape. I'd always feel the pressure is more when I'm going in and maybe you're a bit underdone or even injury or something like that. I think when I was younger, I probably enjoyed it more, and I didn't feel the pressure as much. I think the older I got, I think the more pressure that you put on yourself. I think when you're young, you're probably water off a duck's back, and you're probably, not that it doesn't matter as much, but you certainly put more pressure on yourself when you're older. Even now, club games, I wouldn't say I enjoy them, no, but you probably deal it in, it's to kind of deal with it in moments. Don't look too far ahead, just deal with the present rather than thinking, oh God, I have to think about 20 minutes what's happened. And like that, if something goes wrong, if I miss a free, I'm not thinking to myself for the next 5 minutes I've missed that free. I'm dying to get the ball again to either win another free or take another shot. I could miss 11 shots in a row, but I'll still take the 12th. So just it's having confidence in your own ability, but don't think too far ahead. Like even, if you had a match on a Sunday, I'm not thinking about the match till probably an hour and a half beforehand, because you get yourself so worked up, you've used up so much energy. So it's just stay present, stay in the moment. And yeah, I wouldn't say that to enjoy it, but certainly enjoy the moments. If you do something good in a game, enjoy that. And the more good things you'll do, the better that you're going to feel about yourself. So if you have, get a touch early, take a shot early, whatever it might be, keep it simple. I think then if you have the more things that you do well, and as I said, enjoy the moments, that's probably the advice I give. I don't know if it's different to you, Luke.
Just the nerves thing, I'd say if you're nervous, it shows you care, because I was nervous coming up here. Like, we all get nervous every day in everyday situations, but sometimes I feel like I'm probably just reiterating what she said. Like, when you have the work done, you can kind of chill out a small bit, because like, if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. Like, there's not much more else you can do. But I would just say maybe try to, like, I know we say there it's very serious and all, but like in training there, I try to have as much fun as possible. Like, I'm actually going to train an under 13 team tomorrow that my girlfriend's missus plays with, and I actually was thinking about what I was going to say to them, and I was like, so what'll I say? I know Connor, and he'll be looking at me now, and I was like, right, having fun is number one, but winning is a close second, obviously. I was thinking that might work, but if you're not enjoying it, like, the whole process, you mightn't enjoy the game so much because it's so serious and the pressure, but like, the process is the most important thing. It's the journey, it's all them things, and it's literally taking things step by step, day by day. And if you feel like you're nervous, like, just sit with the feeling. Why are you nervous? Is it because you haven't done enough training? Is it because you feel like the guy's better than you? Like, I know it might sound crazy, but when you do some internal work on yourself, you get to be able to sit with feelings. So if I feel anxious or scared maybe or worried, I sit and I say, right, why is that happening, or why am I feeling like that? Now, it takes a long time to practice that, but that's maybe where you can start. But if you're not enjoying the process, you definitely won't enjoy the games. But the games, obviously, you win a final, or she said you score a goal, like, that's like literally 5 seconds of like the best feeling in the world, but obviously it's over then, there and then.
Just enjoy the moments, that's all you can do. And like, on any team, everyone have different moments. It could be a defender and, they don't get as much credit, but it might be a block or it might be a good run. So enjoy them, and I think them moments will add up for you.
Thanks for that. Oh, just one more for you, Cora, now. I'm at the twilight end of my Gaelic career, you could say now. I keep getting asked, are you coming back next year? But would you take much time off yourself now in off-season, or how would you alter your training the older you get?
Yeah, up to now, like, I can only speak probably up to last year, until I'd have never taken time off up to January. I'd have been a 12 months around the block. I always had this fear in my head that if I took time off, I'd never get back to the fitness levels of where I need to be. I don't enjoy running. Like, I don't enjoy going out having to do a running session and training, give me the ball or anything short running, but I never had enjoyed having to go out and slog in December. So I was lucky enough with our club. We used to get to Connacht finals or All Ireland, so that'll be always kind of November, December, and I'd be back in with Mayo then. So the max I'd have ever taken off might be a week or two. Now it sits with me a lot better. Now I know my output doesn't have to be as high as it was, but when I was certainly within my career, I had to train 12 months a year just to keep myself at a level, and it was that feeling going in, whether it's into the start of a year in Australia or into the start of a year with Mayo. I had to feel that I was right. I couldn't be behind people, because if I felt I was behind, then I was going to be behind for the rest of the year. But now it sits perfectly. Now I'm fine. I train a couple of times a week at the club, and I enjoy going to the gym. So I don't have any guilt about not training at a higher level anymore. But I certainly I'd have lived off guilt for the majority of my career, that I was always worried that someone else was doing more than me, so I needed to do more than they did, which is again probably crazy, but again that's the way we're wired, and you can't change that.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Mikey?
Hi everyone. Firstly, thanks Cora. Ulton trying to get out of training there all year. So for Bethany, it's just for yourself. We've been talking about team sports, and when you're in a team, it's easy to kind of, someone on your team might pull you out of a hole, like you might get a last minute goal, one of your teammates might get a last minute goal. But what's your focus going into a big fight? Is it solely on yourself, or do you analyse your opponent? And how do you kind of, you were saying about your main goal was the 2028 Olympics. How do you motivate yourself to think that far ahead and give them goals? But the first question, is kind of, do you solely focus on yourself and everything you can do, or do you analyse the opponents as well?
I suppose it's a bit of both. Like, I can only control what I'm going to do on the day, but obviously you have to know a bit about your opponent as well, like whether they're Southpaw, Orthodox, or there's little things you kind of have to pick up on, and like kind of adapt your style to who you're going in with. Now I don't do much of that myself. Like, my coach will research them and tell me what I should be training for, and he'll adapt my training to it. But for competitions like the one I went to the weekend, you don't know who you're boxing until you get down there. So it's kind of hard to think about the other person, because all you can control is what you're doing yourself. So you just have to think about yourself all the time and be selfish about it. And if you're fit, you can adapt to anything really, and you can be fully prepared for all sort of aspects. So.
That's good. And do you get nervous before fights, or do you like the thoughts of not knowing who you're fighting?
No, I'd be awful nervous now. Like, I'd be feeling quite sick nearly. I suppose anyone would if you're getting in the ring and you know anything could happen to you really. But obviously I'd have the confidence there as well to know that I'm just as good as the person the person that's standing in front of me, and that I'm more than capable to beat them or hit them in the same sense that they'd be hitting me. But the nerves are certainly there, and I think the nerves are there nearly from a week or so beforehand. Like, they think about their matches maybe the day of it or whatever, but I feel like for a fight now, like, I know I have the All-Irelands in 5 weeks, and I already have the nerves, because you just want to do well, and you want to do well for other people as well as yourself, and you kind of owe it to yourself to do it. So that's why I've upped the training so much, to kind of know I'm prepared, so my nerves aren't as bad on the day, but I'll be feeling them from weeks out, like, so.
It just goes to show as well that everybody is different in how they, I suppose, of what they experience at such levels as well in sport. Mikey, are you finished?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And anybody else? Yeah.
I suppose, you know how I think it's been kind of a running theme throughout all of your chats tonight, that like the mind is so important when it comes to doing your best. Have you got any tips for like preparing yourselves? So like mentally kind of preparing yourselves for games or for fights, you know, and the lines of mindfulness. You said, you know, to be mindful and stuff like that. Have you got any tips on, and I think Luke, you mentioned meditation too. have you got anything that you would say works really well?
To be honest, I haven't a clue what meditation does, but when I was in Cumwera, it's 30, actually the first time we did it was in like a detox room, so like I was obviously detoxing, and they tell you close your eyes, and the Gladiator theme song came on, and I didn't know whether it was coming or going, but I was going into battle or something, but after a while then it's twice a day for 30 minutes, and it went on for ages, and I'm a very like jittery person, and kind of got it very hard to sit still, be kind of comfortable in myself, but after a while I gave it a go, and there was one time it just happens, I don't know, you kind of breathe, and it's like ma ra na ta with your breath, so ma ra na ta, and I just didn't put a timer on, I just kept going and kept going and kept going, and it was 40 minutes I was sitting there. And I never really thought much of it because we had to do it for half an hour, but it didn't happen to me after that. And then when I left, I said, what am I going to take from this list? Right, I'm going to do meditation every day. I find when I meditate, I am less anxious. I don't know like what the study is, but I feel like I've done something for my mind. I feel like I'm calmer. And as well, just a tip there, maybe people that are nervous, I think you have to have the crack basically. Like if you're so serious, the moments and the games are so serious that if you're not having fun, literally until maybe you get into the dressing room or the locker, if you're not having fun until about an hour beforehand, there's no point. Like I have teammates there that like they're after taking pre-workout there before we get on the bus to the game, and they're rattling and everything. I'm like, this, you know what I mean? And like I'm just there like, how's the dog you got, or like, you know. But everyone's different. But the meditation thing, is not everyone's going to be able to do it. I can sit maybe 20 minutes. No, I don't do it a lot. I made a promise to myself to try to get up tomorrow and do it. It might not, but 10 minutes is a good start, or 5 minutes, and a guided meditation, and just try it for a month, and you'll find the benefits of it, because it's like them little things. There's no harm in trying. It's like as well, just when I meditate as well, I actually say a few prayers. I'm not religious, not in the slightest, but there's no point, or there's no harm in asking for a small bit of help, as I might get it, just to stay sober maybe for another day.
Yeah, well done. Bethany, do you have any tips or anything going into a game, or going into a fight?
I don't do the meditation or anything like that, I suppose. I feel like people think I don't take my sport seriously when I'm getting into the ring, because like if I'm not laughing getting into the ring, then I'm like, I can't control my nerves, like, so I'd be very bad in that sense. But I find when I'm warming up and everything, I always have to be having a laugh, and I have to be, you know, just to relax myself. But I'm doing that all year round anyways, like through training in the club and everything, like, so I suppose focusing more on enjoying yourself is really important as well, more than just trying to focus on the nerves, because I feel like the nerves, for me, the nerves disappear the second you get in the ring. Like the second the first punch is thrown, the nerves are gone. But it's the half an hour, the hour beforehand that you really need to kind of have a laugh and relax yourself and realise that 9 minutes in the ring and it's all over, like, so you need to just get in, get the job done, and that's it then.
Yeah, and like everybody deals with their nerves in a different way. So laughing, you know, having fun, meditating, you know, affirmations, whatever works. You have to, but I think it's about experimenting with different things to see what does work for you, and allowing yourself to do that as well. Would you say that? Cora, do you do anything?
No, I don't do any meditation or anything, but to me it's just routine.
Yeah.
Because you do it so often, like whether it's games or whatever, you do the same thing week. Like if you have a game, when I'm in Australia, we have a game every week, so it's the same routine. Okay, your routine might be thrown out a bit if it's a home or away game, but same routine in the morning of a match. You know, you get up. It's been boring. Like you get up, you go for a coffee, have your breakfast. You know, you come back, pack your bag. When you go into the change room, you sit in the same spot. Then you go out on the pitch for a while, kick around. You might listen to music. It's keep that routine. If I'm knocked out of routine, that's where people can, be bothered. I found it very hard when I went to Australia. They're in change rooms and they're listening to this mental loud music. And I'm going around the whole change room or the whole stadium looking for a quiet spot, because that's the way I am. I don't get don't get aroused until closer to the game, so I need to just stay calm. Where they're an hour out and they're pumped, and I'm like, God, I can't do this. So it's to find what's right for you and whatever your routine, and you kind of stick to your routine of what's good for you. And again, you might say to yourself, oh Christ, you got beaten the last 3 weeks in a row, do I need to change my routine? So it's to find it, and normally you find you kind of stick to the similar routine. It was the same with Mayo. When we were travelling, I was on the bus beside the quiet people, didn't want to be around too many loud people, sat beside the same type of people as me in the change room. So it's to find that, and the longer that you're in your sport, you find the routine.
Yeah, brilliant. Is that okay, Jo? Okay, thank you. And anybody else? Yeah, perfect.
What's the most important thing you can do to improve your game, like now?
God, there's a lot. Is it Gaelic footballer? Yeah. To me, the most important thing for any young person growing up is their skills. You can talk about fitness, and being fit is really important and all that. But if you look at the best players that play football, male, female, whoever they might be, and to me at the moment, someone like David Clifford, who's a genius. Why is he so good? Okay, he's big and he's strong, but his skills is a lot better. He does everything quicker than everyone else. So I would be for you is to keep practicing your skills. So that's soloing, kick passing, hand passing, shooting, whatever it might be. Make them as the best that you can make them on both left and right foot. Don't have a weak side. If you keep practicing them, everything else. You can always get fit and you can get strong. That's fine. You can go out running and you can go to the gym and do that. But if you want your skills, you hone them in from when you're very young and you keep practicing them. Even now, and boring as it might seem, that's what we do every night. We go to training, the basic skills. We don't worry about these really highfalutin drills that look great. It's to get better at soloing, at speed, kicking at speed, hand passing at speed. So you go out every day into the garden or wherever and kick the ball up against the wall and make them better, and that's how you become very good.
Okay, is that all right? Brilliant. And anybody else? Okay, guys, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you very much. And I want to thank you all for coming out this evening. I suppose I know a few of you have travelled quite a distance, so thank you very, very much. And I appreciate all your support for being here tonight. I want to thank our wonderful guests, Bethany, Luke and Cora, and I think they have really smashed the goal of what I wanted when I thought about, delivering Maximise. I wanted to empower people, inspire and educate people, the audience, by having such, I suppose, empowering and inspiring guests on. And I think the three of them have definitely smashed that goal. So can you give them a big round of applause? And I want to thank Donal, Andy, Sean, Connor, Elaine and Damien on sound and video for all your expertise and help tonight, and for organising the setup and everything. It's been absolutely brilliant, and I think everything ran smoothly. So thank you very much for that. I also want to thank Kevin and Emily from Kevin Media for all their social media and marketing expertise. And I want to thank all those of you who, from the start, have shown me huge support. So thank you very much for everything. And you can catch me on www.mskcoaching.com, and you can follow me on Instagram if you want. Where can we catch you, Bethany? Are you on Instagram? Yeah, Instagram. Luke, Instagram? Instagram, yeah. Excellent. Right Tech, actually. Shout out to Right Tech. Fire protection, they'd be very happy with that. Brilliant. And Cora, Instagram as well. Okay, excellent. So once again, thank you all very much. And remember, the road is never straight, okay? But if you want to get to that destination, be prepared for those bumps, turns, twists, whatever else that you might experience, and keep going. And leave your arena with no regrets. Thank you.